Chase Briscoe wins back-to-back Southern 500s at Darlington, leading 309 of the 367 laps tonight. Let's break down the 2025 Darlington Southern 500. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR in South Carolina, Darlington Southern 500 Crown Jewel event, opening race of the playoffs, and these playoff drivers got hit very hard by the Lady in Black. The track too tough to tame today. We'll talk about that. Chase Briscoe, absolutely amazing, dominant performance. 309 of the 367 laps led, ultimately getting the win again. He won a year ago for Stewart-Haas Racing. The last win for that organization, won today with James Small and a Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. Big win for Chase Briscoe. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the top 10. Great night for the Toyotas. We'll talk about that playoff grid now following the opening round of the playoffs. And let's just talk about the Darlington Southern 500, right? Super impressive that Chase Briscoe was able to tame this track 2 years in a row, but it's just such a difficult racetrack. And if we look at all the Crown Jewel races, right, the Daytona 500 with its uncertainty, the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis with the strategy and the best crew chiefs and the best pit crews typically win that race and show their talent in that race. Then you have the Coke 600, right, the longest race of the year, most endurance race of the season. Well, Darlington's kind of like all of that put together in one, right? It has uncertainty, car parts and issues happen. Stuff starts to fail after the long, grueling hours of the race. It's typically the longest race of the year time-wise. I don't know if it was longer than the 600 time-wise this year, but it a lot of times it does take the cake for the longest race of the year if you set the stopwatch. And also, like I said, there's just uncertainty. There's strategy involved with the tire wear. Everything from the other Crown Jewel races we get are put into this race. It's so difficult. I think you could ask most drivers in the field what the most difficult racetrack on the schedule is, and they would say Darlington. Well, that would make the 500-mile race the most difficult race, the Southern 500, the most difficult race of the season, right? That's why you saw so many top teams have issues, so many playoff teams have issues. We talk about every year the opening race at Darlington. Oh, we're surprised how we have so... No, I expect for all these drivers to have issues because it's just such a tough track to tame. All these drivers go into the playoffs, opening round, you're the best 16 teams, right? Well, NASCAR is going to punch you in the mouth with Darlington Raceway to open the playoffs. So it's exciting. Let's talk about Chase Briscoe being able to tame this racetrack, was able to hold off Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones in the closing laps. Phenomenal race by him and that team. I talked about it all summer long. James Small, Chase Briscoe, a lot to prove going into this NASCAR season. Well, they've done it. They've won, 6 poles already, showing that they have the raw speed. They won at Pocono earlier this year. They've now won the Southern 500 again, which is a huge deal, I think, in NASCAR right now. The Southern 500 has now gained a lot of lust. This is a very important race on the schedule to fans, drivers, and teams now. Maybe more so than it previously has been. All the Crown Jewel races seem to be bigger now than they were, a few years ago. They are taken very seriously. So big win by James Ball, big win by Chase Briscoe, punches your ticket into the next round. And once again, since he swept stages, right? So he gets the 2 stage points for winning the stage and the 5 points for winning the race. They transfer over. So you can carry those points and accumulate them into round 2. So yes, he's guaranteed into round 2, but he can still carry those points over. It's accumulative, right? It keeps going over each round. So big win for Chase Briscoe. A lot to prove for James Small as well, the crew chief, and Chase Briscoe. They've shocked me. I thought they would be good. I thought they would be decent. Right now, they are very realistically could contend for a playoff 4 berth. I would still be surprised if I saw this team win like a championship. I just don't expect that right now. But they're knocking on the door, right? They're getting closer to that, and shoot, it could be this year, but I still don't see it. But yes, they're very strong. And Chase Briscoe also, something that I think is not talked about as much, at least on the broadcast, playoff experience, right? Being able to handle the pressure of the postseason. Well, Chase Briscoe was able to do it a year ago with Stewart-Haas Racing, winning the Southern 500 to get into the playoffs. Well, now he's winning the playoff opener. He's already accustomed to the playoff pressure. He knows how to somewhat handle that. This isn't his first time entering the playoffs. So with that being said, let's get into it, right? Let's take a look at the top 10, right? Chase Briscoe getting the win, Tyler Reddick right behind him. Great performance by Tyler Reddick, right? We can take a look at the beginning. It was talked about a lot on the broadcast. Lap 1, turn 1. Well, I guess this is coming out of turn 2. Josh Berry gets loose, just straight up wrecks the car. On the bottom of Tyler Reddick, gets into Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick able to save the race car in an incredible save and keep going. He didn't even pit after that crash. To put it in perspective, was able to get 18 stage points tonight for Tyler Reddick, finishing second. That's about the max amount of points you can get. I think that is the max amount of points you can get without winning a stage or the race, right? So massive performance by Tyler Reddick when we look at the point side of things. Eric Jones has won 2 Southern 500s in his career, one at Joe Gibbs Racing, one in this 43 car. I was there in 2022. That's a big deal for him. He's very talented at this racetrack, at this Darlington Raceway, so that was exciting to see Eric Jones continue to be fast in the Southern 500, which is this race, and the spring race as well. Eric Jones has a lot of good results. Teammate Jonathan Nemechek finishing 4th. I've mentioned the Legacy Motor Club Toyotas have definitely stepped their game up this season compared to what we saw a year ago. Yes, they haven't made a win. I know neither one of them make the playoffs, but compared to what we saw last year with these Legacy Motor Club Toyotas, this is like a championship to that organization, right? When you look at the stat sheet. So great for them. AJ Allmendinger, nice 5th place finish. AJ Allmendinger always tends to run up front at these types of tracks. Bubba Wallace finishing 6th. Great result, I think, for Bubba Wallace. Probably could have done a little bit better. I don't know if something happened with the tire strategy, but it was running top 3 for Georgia Race. Got a lot of stage points. I would say a huge plus for Bubba Wallace trying to advance in the playoffs. Denny Hamlin finishing 7th. He was upset with some pit road issues in the beginning of this race, or about midway through this race, and that set you back. And that's what this Southern 500 is just so key, right? We talk about it's all these different components. Well, it's also difficult to pass, especially in this car, and that makes every little small mistake that can very easily be made, getting on pit road, exiting pit road, more important, because it can play a big role. Denny Hamlin doesn't make that mistake or doesn't have that issue on the pit cycle. Denny Hamlin potentially wins this race or finishes 2nd. You don't know the difference that could be when you're talking about playoffs at this point in the season. Kyle Busch finishing 8th, nice 8th place finish for him, trying to turn that momentum around going into 2026, right? He's stuck with RCR. I'm not going to say stuck with, but he's with RCR on a contract deal for at least 2026. So Kyle Busch trying to kind of increase that speed, get back to better results than what we've seen. Carson Hocevar finishing 9th, very impressive that the 77 car, who, what he said in his mind, he couldn't even drive it, spun out, had an issue on pit road, caused a caution, then had the issue on pit road, hitting Christopher Bell, finishing 9th. I actually did not know he finished 9th until I just went and looked at the top 10. A great result for the 77 Spire Chevrolet. Chris Buescher finishing 10th to round out the top 10. So that brings us now to the playoff grid. And let's try to break it down best we can from 1st to 16th, right? This is the results following race 1 of round 1. 2 races to go. St. Louis next week, kind of a flat, wide oval. And then you go to the high banks at the Coliseum in Bristol for the cutoff race on a Saturday night in 2 weeks, right? So we'll have to break that down. Chase Briscoe with the big win, punches his ticket in, no worries at all. Chase Briscoe can crash out, finish last on lap 1 of the next 2 races. He's now guaranteed in the next round of the playoffs with the win today. Denny Hamlin, 43 points above. That's a pretty nice cushion. Some stage points, finishing 7th, along with all the bonus points he accumulated during the year. So he has a pretty solid advantage after this first race. I would say the same thing with Kyle Larson. Solid advantage, being 38 above. Reddick, 35 above. Once again, like I said, max points for Reddick for not winning a stage and not winning the race. So not winning a single stage or the race, you get the max amount of points you can. Yes, it's upsetting that you didn't kind of, get over that hump, finally get a win this season. He's winless this year so far. But 35 points above the cut line certainly is a bit of a cushion, right? Things can still go wrong, but it is a bit of a cushion. 25 for William Byron. Bubba Wallace, 25 above. Nice cushion for him as well. Blaney, 22 above. Blaney probably could have been higher up, had some issues. It looks like Kyle Busch started spinning out a little bit. Ultimately, Ryan Blaney kind of runs into him. Blaney having issues after that. It doesn't look that bad at the initial, just looking at this crash. It looks like he would be fine, but apparently running around the racetrack trying to catch back up to the field before he made his pit stop to fix the damage caused more damage. So I think with everything at that point in the race that we were seeing already, I don't want to say that it's easy to make the calls on top of a pit box, but I just feel like that was a situation that probably should. I'd say you play conservative at Darlington in this type of situation. A lot of other drivers are going to have issues similar to Texas, right? When Texas was in the playoffs, play conservative. If I was a crew chief, I'm thinking playing conservative because I know everybody else is going to have trouble. Same thing with Darlington, Texas, kind of similar with the wild, playoff issues aspect. Ross Chastain with now 21 points above the cut line. Austin Cindric 12 above. Bell with the awful day. Once again, one of those drivers that was having a solid race, had solid speed all day long. He was a Joe Gibbs Toyota, but had issues on pit road with Carson. Damage to the front of the race car. Damage to the front end of the race car, like the front spoiler, is such an aerodynamic disadvantage, even at a Darlington racetrack, at any racetrack really, except maybe Martinsville or Bristol or something like that. Those low speed tracks, not as big of a deficit, but just Christopher Bell not able to recover, finishes outside the top 20. Disappointing day for him. Chase Elliott, I think Chase Elliott finished 17th today. Disappointing for him that the caution came out at the worst time for him possible there at the end of the race. 9 points above the cut line now, so certainly not great for Elliott, but we'll see what he can do at some racetracks coming up. A little concerned at St. Louis, right? Elliott has not had a lot of success at St. Louis, or at least Hendrick Motorsports has not looked that great at St. Louis. And then we'll just see what happens under the lights at Bristol in a couple of weeks. SVG, once again, that was interesting. Can SVG make it to round 2? Because once again, if SVG can make it to round 2, then he's got the road course that he could win. He will be favored to win going into that race. Just want to say that in advance to round 3. But really big issues today, finishing outside the top 30, I believe, was the final result. Just the pit cycle just really hurt him, right? It was all or nothing on the pit cycle. They were trying. Not saying that was, it's easy to look back now and say, in hindsight that, that was the bad call. I'm not going to say that, but just a big issue there. Wasn't able to recover. Got trapped 2 laps down. I think he ended up finishing 1 lap down. Only 3 points above the cut line now. So that 16-point cushion is not a whole lot, but it is something. It is now gone in a sense, right? So we'll have to see what happens with SVG. Once again, the concern is the ovals, like next week in St. Louis for SVG, but the big concern is Bristol, because he's just really struggled there in the spring, and he's kind of mentioned how he's had a lot of trouble there at the high banks of Bristol. So we'll see what happens. Got 2 races to go. A lot of crazy things can happen. And once again, there's still 16 drivers in. That's important, right? So, you only have to be in the top 12, right? So that'll become more intense as we move forward. Joey Logano, 3 below the cut line now. Just a rough day. Logano just could not find the speed at this racetrack. Like, he was upset in his post-race interview. Just could not find the speed. Just things could not get going his way. And that's Darlington, right? That's the lady in black for you. Very difficult racetrack. As as the race progressed, as the sun started to set, it seems like the 2240 got even worse as the race continued to go on. So 3 points below the cut line now for Joey Logano going into race 2 of round 1. Austin Dillon, I don't know what happened. I think he was running top 10. I don't know if it was a strategy thing or what, but he got shuffled back, ended up finishing in the back of the pack, now 8 points below the cut line. That's frustrating for Austin Dillon. I feel like he had a much faster car than the result that he got. I'm not saying it was a winning car, or maybe not even a top 10 car, but a top 20 car at the least. So very disappointing for Austin Dillon to now be 8 points below. Josh Berry, once again, with that crash at the beginning of the race, right? That just immediately took him out. Now, Josh Berry did go out and get the fastest lap at the end of this race, so that does give him 1 bonus point. That could pay dividends at the end if it becomes a tie or a 1-point difference. You never know what could happen in the playoffs, right? So Josh Berry, I appreciate the team going out there, the 21 team trying to go out there and at least do that to try to keep going, try to keep a little bit of momentum on their side. But I have Josh Berry being eliminated. They have not been able to execute really all season long. They have some decent speed, but execution's just not there yet. I don't see them going very far this year in the playoffs, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. 2 more races to go. Alex Bowman, 19 points out. Issues all day today for Alex Bowman, right? It was a disastrous day for the 48 team. First off, they weren't that fast to start the weekend. That's a very important thing to note. Started in the back, had issues in the back, and then coming up pit road with the pit gun, right? That undoes the lug nut. That had a problem. They didn't have the backup one plugged in and ready to go. And the reason you're critical of that is because this is Hendrick Motorsports. They're always extra prepared for when stuff goes wrong. Well, they weren't in this instance, and that's why we're going to critique it, because they always are. Tonight they were not. You don't want to put that straight on the crew chief, but it's kind of his responsibility at the end of the day, along with the pit crew. But very, very frustrating for Alex Bowman, I'm sure, to have a 30-some second pit stop, get trapped multiple laps down. About the worst day you could have to open up the playoffs for Alex Bowman, which is why he's now last on the ranking of playoff drivers, 19 points out. So that's certainly interesting. That's it. That's really all I have to say about the Southern 500. A bit of a long video, another late night. We're back to Sunday afternoon for the first time in almost a month next week at St. Louis for the second race of the playoffs. That should be exciting. We'll see what happens at that racetrack, and certainly about Kyle Busch getting a nice top 10 finish today. Let's get rowdy.